So doing a tool review on a tool that just came out on the market's a piece of cake.
It sure is.
You know, but as a woodworker, and I know many woodworkers, they're interested in a tool that has been out on the market for a while.
Sure, because doing something like we're doing today, which is an infinity saw blade that's been on the market for quite some time, gives you a better look at how that blade itself has stood the test of time.
Yeah, and what that means for you is it's a better value. So we've put this one to the test. We've had it in the shop for a long time. We're going to take a close-up look at Infinity's 10-inch 50-tooth combination blade that has a nickel plating on it. It is part 010-050.
So let's take a closer look at that infinity blade.
So we pulled the blade out and got it set up so we can really take a look at it. First of all, we want to talk about the fact that this is a 50-tooth blade. All right, this is a combination blade, and truthfully, this is the blade that we have on our table saw 99% of the time.
Exactly.
I do a lot of cross-cut and ripping at my table saw. I know you do as well. This is not the blade that you would pick out to put on your miter box or chop saw.
Right.
That one you want to have more 70 to 80 plus teeth on there because it's specifically designed to do a cross-cut, which you want a nice tooth pattern.
And it's also got a different rake angle on there, but we'll talk about that
Right.
in just a little bit.
So this is a 50 tooth. This is an ATB with a raker. So let's talk about what the ATB with a raker says.
So an alternating tooth bevel or alternating top bevel means that one of those teeth is ground with an angle that points up to the right, and the other tooth is ground off so that it points up to the left, hence the alternating top bevel.
Right, and the raker is actually a flat tooth that's set in there, and it's of a 5-tooth combination, as we'll take a look here at the blade, but the flat tooth cleans out the scored areas that are cut by the angle. Now the way they've set this blade up, the actual flat on that raker has got the corners knocked off of it as well, which I think is pretty cool because that reduces a little bit of the drag on it as you're cutting.
And that tear out.
And still cleans up stuff, so you got a really nice cut out of it. So if we come in close and take a look, you can see that the tooth setup and the design, we've got a 5-tooth group here, and then they space around the blade that way. So in between each of the teeth, you have the gullet, which is common to saw blades, but in between the 5-tooth setups, you also have a larger cutout, which allows more of the sawdust to be taken out of the cut and deposited into your table saw.
Sure.
So this is, as we talked about, this is a nickel-plated blade. That's why it's shiny.
Yep.
And one of the things that we like about it, and we'll talk about those a little bit more as we get to it. You mentioned briefly about the idea of hook angle.
Sure.
And let's talk a little bit about the differences, and then we'll go back to what this blade actually is.
Sure. Well, the difference between a positive and a negative hook angle on there is based on how that tooth, the face of that tooth is actually attacking the board. A negative rake angle would take it back, and you would want something like that on your chop saw or a radial arm saw.
What? They're still using radial arm saws?
Because that negative hook angle tends to grab the wood fibers less and pull. So if you had a positive hook angle on a radial arm saw per se, which is usually the problem, most people have that,
Right.
the saw wants to run at you, whereas on a table saw, that's a good thing because the positive hook angle on there actually keeps that thing held down to the table.
And so we're looking at the Infinity blade. This particular blade has a 12-degree positive hook angle to it, which is ideal, again, for what we're working with here at the table saw.
Sure.
All right, so as you come in and take another close look at it, you'll notice, obviously, that this has a carbide tooth on it. And, our take on this is you shouldn't really have a saw blade in your shop that doesn't have carbide. There's a reason for it. This is C4 carbide, which is a good quality carbide tip. It is close grain, packed really tight, so you're less apt to have fractures in this.
Sure, you're not going to chip those teeth as much if you're using it under normal circumstances. If you take the thing and toss it across your garage floor, you're probably going to lose a few teeth.
Yeah.
And chip a few in the process. But you're right, you want to make sure that you've got a good quality carbide tip on there, and from what we've seen from using the Infinity blade for now about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, solid use in the shop.
Oh yeah, we have no missing teeth, and which stands to a good brazing job, and none of the teeth are chipped, which means we've got some really good carbide in here because, you know, somebody I know just isn't the easiest on a blade.
Come on, come on. All right, so, you know, we've had it for a while, we've used it for a while. Give us something that you really have noticed about the blade and appreciate.
The thing that I like the best about it is, and I've used a lot of the cheaper blades, this thing does not have any vibration. It's not, you set up the saw, you run it, and you don't notice that this thing is actually revolving other than the noise.
Right.
Okay? It's not setting up any additional vibration at the saw, which means you're going to get a cleaner cut. You're going to be able to control the material a whole lot better. And once again, the third most important thing is that cleaner cut.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, and if you go on to the Infinity website and look under their saw blades, there's a lot of really good information there. And one of the things they talk about is that they check each of these blades for parallelism, and that's the flatness that you're talking about. And Infinity checks it down and rejects anything that's over 1/1000th of an inch as far as out of parallelism. Now, how does that compare? You know, a blade from a box store, something an inexpensive blade is going to be somewhere, I mean, can be as much as 4 times that or 4/1000th of an inch. So when you put one of those blades on and flip it up and it runs up at full speed,
a bit more vibration.
you're going to get a little bit more than an 1/8 inch cut, which is a full kerf on those blades.
The other thing that I've noticed is that once you put it in, it's fairly concentric to the hole in the center. You're not getting that, you're not seeing the saw blade bouncing up and down as you cut. So again, it's more concentric, means a lot less vibration translated to the machine, brings you into a much smoother cut.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I've noticed on this that I really like on this is the fact that it has the nickel coating on it.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that really is different because I've used some of the blades that have a painted on, like a Teflon coating on them. And occasionally, as wood moves when you cut, which we all know it does, you'll touch that plate a little bit and some of that color can rub off onto your wood.
Yeah, if you've got the nickel plating rubbing off on your boards as you're running it through there, you've got a lot more problems than just what blade to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I really like that. It's clean, and, you know, when you use it, if you do have something like that, you tend to feel that it's moving past it. It's not necessarily getting racked up on that.
Sure, and that's the other thing is that nickel plating makes that surface really smooth, and a little bit of wax would help make it even slipperier so that if you do get some of that binding, because as we said, all wood moves, you're not going to necessarily feel it as much and slow down the saw or start to, you know, cause you problems with moving the material through the blade. You're going to actually continue the cut, and it's going to make it safer and once again give you a cleaner cut. So if you're looking for a good quality blade that isn't going to set you back, you know, an arm and a leg, because it's hard to run a table saw without a missing arm and a leg, you know, we really like the Infinity 10-inch combination, 50-tooth combination blade, the nickel plated one. We haven't yet started playing with their other
40
ones.
tooth, yeah.
So, I mean, we think it's a really great blade and gives you a nice clean cut, doesn't have a whole lot of vibration, and after 5 months or so here in the shop, it's really holding up well.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a quality blade, give the Infinity 010-050, pretty easy number to remember. Give it a look and contact Infinity and they'll ship one out to you. So here's a perfect tip if you're going to be working at your table saw. I've got about a 6-inch wide board and I want to cut a 2-inch piece off of that. If I cut a 2-inch piece off of the 6-inch wide board, I've got 4 inches of stock that's sitting there that's helping this board to move around a little bit. One of the easiest ways to get burn is to operate that way. If you want to eliminate the burn, and I know it requires an extra step, but the ideal thing to do is to make the cut at 2 inches and about an 1/8 inch wide, and then come back and trim that 1/8 of an inch off. There's a reason for it, and I'll show it to you right here. So obviously you can see here as I made this cut through Tiger Maple, we're getting a really good amount of burn. And that's because I had so much excess off on the off feed side or off cut side. So I cut this a little wide, and I'm going to come back now and readjust my fence down to my 2 inches, which is the final piece that I need to make. And as I make this cut, what you'll notice is the little bit that's out here extra is just going to be flopping around in the breeze. It's not going to force the blade to be kicking back and forth against both sides of the cut. So it's going to result in a nice clean cut as we go through and make that second pass. Now you can see, taking a look at the pieces that we have left over there, how much cleaner this second cut is by just having that little bit of waste to take off instead of the full width of that board.